The emergency alarm screamed through the halls of the Galactic Council building. Ambassador Choi Hana ran down the long corridor, her shoes clicking against the metal floor. She had never heard this alarm before. It meant the galaxy was about to fall. The council chamber was full of panic. Dozens of alien species shouted at each other in their own languages. The air smelled of fear and desperation. Some aliens had strange skin colors. Others had too many arms or eyes. But all of them looked terrified. Choi Hana took her seat in the human section. She was the only human in the entire building. Earth had been watching this war for 3 years, but they never joined the fight. Most aliens thought humans were too weak to help anyway. Council leader Vexatar stepped forward. He was tall and blue with 4 arms and no hair. His voice shook as he spoke through the translator. "The Vorthak Empire has broken through our last defense line," he said. "The Kepler Nexus has fallen. We have lost over 2,000 ships in the past week alone." Murmurs of fear filled the room. The Kepler Nexus was supposed to be impossible to break. It had the strongest shields and the best weapons in the galaxy. If the Vorthak could destroy it, they could destroy anything. Choi Hana watched the holographic display in the center of the room. It showed a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked Vorthak territory. 3 years ago, there were only a few red dots in one corner. Now, red covered almost half the galaxy. "How many ships do they have left?" asked Admiral Kexmar of the Zephyrian fleet. His crystal skin glowed with worry. "Less than 500 working ships in the entire galaxy," Vextar replied. "The Vorthak have over 3,000. They are hunting down our survivors right now." Choi Hana had studied the Vorthak for years. They were not just conquerors. They were destroyers. Every planet they took became a dead rock. Every species they defeated disappeared forever. They did not take prisoners. They did not make deals. They only killed. The Vorthak ships were fast and deadly. They used plasma weapons that could melt through any armor. Their shields could stop any energy weapon the Council had. Worst of all, their commanders could read each other's minds. They fought like one giant creature with thousands of parts. "What about the Anthari bioships?" someone asked. "They said their living weapons could adapt to anything." "Gone," said Admiral Feldan, an Anthari with gray skin and sad eyes. "The Vorthak learned to kill living ships by making them sick. My entire fleet died screaming." The room fell silent. The Anthari bioships were supposed to be the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. If they could not stop the Vorthak, nothing could. The Kelleran plasma cruisers? Destroyed at Rigel Station. The Nexari mind warriors? The Vorthak broke their mental links. They went insane. One by one, every great military force in the galaxy had been defeated. The Vorthak seemed to have an answer for everything. They adapted faster than anyone could create new weapons. Vextar looked around the room with his large black eyes. "We have one option left. We must ask the humans for help." Half the room started shouting at once. Many aliens laughed. Others looked angry. "The humans," screeched Ambassador Tiklon of the Feathered Worlds. "They still use metal bullets. They're ships are made of iron. They have no energy shields. They have never fought a space war," added General Mordak of the Rock People. "They barely have 50 ships total." Choi Hana stood up slowly. The room became quiet. All eyes turned to her. She was small compared to most aliens, but she did not look afraid. "What exactly are you asking for?" she said in a calm voice. Vextar stepped forward. "Humanity would receive full council membership. You would get territorial rights to 12 star systems, rich systems with good planets. In return, you would send your fleet to help us." "Our entire fleet?" Choi Hana asked. "Whatever you can spare." "We know it is not much, but every ship helps." Choi Hana almost smiled. The council had no idea what they were asking for. They thought humans had a few small ships with simple weapons. They did not know the truth. For 50 years, humans had been building in secret. While other species fought with energy and plasma, humans perfected something much older. They learned to throw rocks very, very hard. "I need to contact Earth," Choi Hana said. "This decision is too big for me alone." "How long will that take?" Vextar asked. "The Vorthak will reach the core worlds in 6 days." "Give me 12 hours." The council agreed. They had no choice. Choi Hana left the chamber and walked to her private communication room. She activated the quantum link to Earth. The connection was instant, but the conversation would change everything. President Oh-Hwa appeared on the screen. She was sitting in the Situation Room with the top military leaders. Admiral Lee Hyun was there, along with Fleet Command. "Madam President," Choi Hana said, "the Council is asking for our help. The galaxy is about to fall." "We have been watching," President Oh-Hwa replied. "Our intelligence says the Vorthak will control everything within a month. The Council is offering us 12 star systems and full membership." Admiral Lee Hyun leaned forward. He was a big man with gray hair and scars on his face. "What do they expect us to send? They think we only have 50 ships. They want whatever we can spare." Admiral Lee Hyun smiled for the first time in years. 50 ships, they have no idea. President Oh-Hwa looked serious. "If we do this, there is no going back. The galaxy will know what we are capable of. Are we ready for that?" "The fleet is ready, Madam President," Admiral Lee Hyun said. "We have been ready for 20 years. Choi Hana understood what he meant. The human defense fleet was not 50 ships. It was 500 ships. All of them were bigger and more powerful than anything the aliens had ever seen. More importantly, they carried weapons that no alien species understood. "The Vorthak use energy shields and plasma weapons," President Oh-Hwa said. "Our intelligence says they have never faced kinetic weapons." "That is correct," Choi Hana confirmed. "They evolved past primitive projectile weapons millions of years ago. They think bullets are toys." Admiral Lee Hyun's smile grew wider. "Then they are in for a surprise." The humans had spent decades studying every battle of this war. They knew exactly how Vorthak shields worked. They knew how fast Vorthak ships could move. Most importantly, they knew that Vorthak armor was designed to stop energy, not matter. "Send the expeditionary fleet," President Oh-Hwa decided. 50 ships, just like they expect, but make sure they are the right 50 ships. "Understood, Madam President." Choi Hana ended the call and returned to the council chamber. The aliens. "We're still arguing about whether asking humans for help was a good idea. Some thought it was desperate. Others thought it was stupid. Earth has agreed to help," she announced. The room fell silent again. "How many ships?" Vexitar asked. 50 ships. Our entire available fleet. Many aliens looked disappointed. 50 ships would not make much difference against 3,000 Vorthak vessels. But they were desperate enough to accept any help. "When will they arrive?" Admiral Kexmar asked. "They are already on their way. Admiral Lee Hyun is leading the fleet personally. They will reach the Kepler system in 72 hours. What the Council did not know was that Admiral Lee Hyun commanded the most powerful military force in galactic history. His 50 ships could destroy planets. Their weapons could punch holes through moons, and they were all aimed at an enemy that had never seen anything like them. The Vorthak Empire was about to learn why humans were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They just did not know it yet. Admiral Lee Hyun stood on the bridge of the HDS Indomitable and watched his fleet prepare for war. Through the massive viewing windows, he could see 49 other human warships floating in perfect formation. Each ship was a giant metal fortress covered in armor and weapons. The Indomitable was the biggest ship in the fleet. It was 2 kilometers long and half a kilometer wide. Its hull was made of hardened steel and ceramic composite. No alien weapon had ever penetrated armor this thick. Along its sides, hundreds of gun barrels pointed into space like the teeth of some massive predator. Captain Park Mina walked up beside him. She was studying a datapad with information about their enemy. Her face was calm, but her eyes were focused and hard. "Status report, Captain," Admiral Lee Hyun said. "All ships are ready for hyperspace jump, sir. Weapons are charged and targeting. Systems are online. The crew is at battle stations. And our intelligence on the Vorthak?" Captain Park Mina touched her datapad and brought up a holographic display. It showed a 3-dimensional image of a Vorthak battleship. The alien vessel was sleek and curved, almost like a work of art. It glowed with blue energy and had no visible weapons. "The Vorthak rely completely on energy-based warfare," she said. "Their ships use plasma cannons and particle beams. Their shields can deflect any energy weapon we know about. But here is the important part. Their hulls are thin. They do not expect to be hit by solid objects." Admiral Lee Hyun nodded. "Because no civilized species uses kinetic weapons anymore." "Exactly. The galactic standard has been energy weapons for over 1,000,000 years. The Vorthak have never fought an enemy that throws metal at them. Commander Kim Jun joined them on the bridge. He was the head of human intelligence and had been studying the Vorthak for 5 years. He carried a thick folder of reports and battle analysis. "Sir, I have the complete tactical breakdown," he said. "The Vorthak have 3,000 ships, but they are spread across 50 star systems. The largest concentration is at Kepler. About 300 ships hunting the last Council forces." 300 ships, Admiral Lee Hyun repeated, "against 50 of ours." "The odds would worry most commanders," Captain Park Mina said. "But most commanders do not have what we have." She gestured toward the weapons control station. Lieutenant Commander Bayek Jin was running final checks on the ship's primary armament. The weapons were called Hammer of Soul railguns, and they were the most powerful kinetic weapons ever built. Dr. Shin Yuri approached the group. She was young for a chief weapons scientist, but she had designed the Hammer of Soul system herself. Her face was excited, like a child about to show off a new toy. "Admiral, the weapons are performing perfectly," she said. "All 50 ships report full ammunition and charged magnetic coils." "Explain the system to me one more time, Doctor," Admiral Lee Hyun said. "I want to be absolutely sure." Dr. Shin Yuri smiled and activated a holographic display. It showed a cutaway view of the railgun system. The weapon ran almost the entire length of the ship. The Hammer of Sol fires a solid tungsten projectile weighing 50 kilograms. The magnetic coils accelerate it to 15% of light speed. At that velocity, the projectile carries more kinetic energy than a nuclear bomb. And their shields cannot stop it? Energy shields work by deflecting charged particles and electromagnetic radiation. Our projectiles are solid matter with no electrical charge. The shields will not even slow them down. Commander Kim Jun opened his folder and pulled out photos of destroyed alien ships. "We tested the concept on captured Vorthak equipment. A single projectile went through 3 different shield types and completely destroyed the target ship." Admiral Lee Hyun studied the photos. The alien ship had not just been damaged. It had been completely torn apart. The projectile had passed through it like it was made of paper. "How many projectiles can each ship fire?" he asked. "The Indomitable carries 1,000 rounds," Dr. Shin Yuri said. "Smaller ships carry between 500 and 800 rounds each. Total ammunition for the fleet is about 30,000 projectiles. More than enough to destroy every Vorthak ship in the galaxy," Captain Park Mina added. Captain Yoon Tae contacted them from his stealth frigate, the Silent Storm. His ship was smaller and faster than the main battleships, designed for reconnaissance and hunting down enemy survivors. "Admiral, my ship is ready for advanced scouting," he said over the communication link. "We can jump ahead and gather intelligence on enemy positions." "Good, but maintain stealth protocols. We do not want them to know we are coming." The Silent Storm was covered in special materials that absorbed sensor signals. To enemy detectors, it would look like empty space. Captain Yoon Tae and his crew had perfected the art of invisible warfare. Major Han Sol reported in from the Marine deck. He commanded the human boarding teams, soldiers trained to fight inside enemy ships. His armor was thick and black, designed to stop alien weapons. "Sir, my teams are ready for prisoner capture and shipboarding," he said, "though I suspect there will not be much left to board after the main guns finish." Admiral Lee Hyun walked to the main tactical display. It showed a map of the Kepler system where the battle would take place. Red dots marked enemy positions. Blue dots showed the remaining Council forces. Less than 50 ships, all of them damaged and running low on ammunition. "The Vorthak think they have already won," he said to his officers. "Their ships are spread out in hunting formations. They are not expecting a real fight." "That will make our job easier," Captain Park Mina said. "Concentrated firepower against scattered targets." Commander Kim Jun pulled up another report. "Sir, the Vorthak psychology profiles are very important. They are extremely arrogant. They believe their technology is superior to everyone else's. When they see our ships, they will probably try to capture them instead of destroying them immediately. They will want to study our primitive technology," Dr. Shin Yuri added with a laugh. "They think metal weapons are ancient and useless." Admiral Lee Hyun smiled grimly. "Then they will learn the truth the hard way." the fleet's communication officer announced that they were ready for the hyperspace jump. All ships reported green. Status across the board. Thousands of human crew members waited at their stations, ready to bring justice to the Vorthak Empire. Dr. Shin Yuri, Admiral Lee Hyun said, "In your professional opinion, how long will this battle last?" She thought for a moment, running calculations in her head. "Based on our firing rate and targeting accuracy, the entire enemy fleet will be destroyed in under 30 seconds, sir." 30 seconds to end a 3-year war, Captain Park Mina said, quietly. "The Vorthak have murdered billions of innocent people," Admiral Lee Hyun replied. "They deserve what is coming to them." He turned to address the entire bridge crew. "Today, humanity enters the galactic stage. For too long, other species have seen us as weak and primitive. They think our weapons are toys and our ships are scrap metal. Today, we show them what human engineering can accomplish." The crew stood at attention, pride evident on every face. The Vorthak Empire has terrorized this galaxy for decades. They have destroyed entire civilizations. They have turned living worlds into dead rocks. Today, their reign of terror ends. Admiral Lee Hyun walked to his command chair and sat down. "All ships, prepare for hyperspace jump. Destination, Kepler system. Time to jump, 60 seconds. The bridge hummed with activity as the crew made final preparations. The hyperspace engines, charged up with a deep thrumming sound that could be felt in the bones. Outside the windows, space began to shimmer and twist as reality prepared to fold. 30 seconds to jump, the navigation officer announced. Admiral Lee Hyun thought about all the species that had suffered under Vorthak rule. Entire civilizations had been wiped out. Billions of people had died screaming as their worlds burned. The Galactic Council had tried everything: diplomacy, superior numbers, advanced technology. Nothing had worked, but they had never tried human stubbornness. They had never faced weapons designed by a species that still remembered how to fight. With rocks and sticks, the Vorthak were about to learn that sometimes the old ways were the best ways. 10 seconds to jump, the officer called out. "All ships, this is Admiral Lee Hyun," he said over the fleet communication channel. "Today we go to war not for conquest, but for justice. We fight not for glory, but for the innocent. Show them what humanity can do." 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Jump. The stars stretched into lines of light, and the human fleet disappeared into hyperspace, carrying death to the Vorthak Empire. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. Immediately, the sensor screens lit up with contacts. Admiral Lee Hyun stared at the tactical display and felt his jaw tighten with anger. The system was a graveyard. Thousands of pieces of broken ships floated in the void like scattered bones. Some pieces were still glowing from recent weapons fire. Others tumbled slowly, dark and cold. This had once been the strongest defensive position in the galaxy. Now it was nothing but debris. "Sweet Mother of Earth," whispered Captain Park Mina. "How many ships died here?" Commander Kim Jun checked his sensors and shook his head. "Based on the wreckage patterns, I estimate over 2,000 vessels. The entire Galactic Council fleet. Among the debris, Admiral Lee Hyun could see the remains of different alien ship types. The crystal hulls of Zephyrian vessels, now shattered into millions of glittering fragments. The organic curves of Anthari bioships, their living metal turned black and dead. The geometric forms of Kelleran plasma cruisers, torn apart like broken toys. "Sir, I am picking up survivors," reported the communications officer. 47 ships still intact and mobile. They are running silent, hiding in the asteroid field. "What species?" "Mixed council forces, mostly damaged. They appear to be the last survivors of the defensive fleet." Captain Yoon Tae's voice came over the communication link from his stealth frigate. "Admiral, I have visual contact with enemy forces. 7 battle groups, approximately 300 Vorthak ships total. They are spread across the system in hunting formations." Admiral Lee Hyun studied the holographic display that showed enemy positions. The Vorthak ships were sleek and predatory, glowing with blue energy. They moved through the debris field like sharks, searching for any sign of life to destroy. "They are not even trying to hide," observed Captain Park Mina. "They think they have already won." "In their minds, they have," replied Commander Kim Jun. "According to their tactical doctrine, once organized resistance is broken, they simply hunt down individual survivors. They see this as cleanup, not battle. Dr. Shin Yuri was running final checks on the weapons systems. Admiral, all hammer of Sol railguns are ready to fire. Targeting computers have locked onto the enemy formations. We can begin the attack whenever. You give the order. Admiral Lee Hyun opened a communication channel to the surviving Council forces. This is Admiral Lee Hyun of the Human Expeditionary Fleet. Please identify yourself. A weak signal came back, full of static and interference. The voice that answered sounded exhausted and defeated. This is Admiral Kang Soo of the Anthari Defense Corps. Human Admiral, you should not have come here. This is a death trap. Admiral. Kang Soo's face appeared on the main screen. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. His uniform was torn and dirty, and his expression showed complete despair. Admiral Kang Soo, we are here to help, Admiral Lee Hyun said calmly. Help? Admiral Kang Soo laughed bitterly. You have 50 ships. The Vorthak have 300. Your weapons are primitive metal projectiles. Their shields will stop anything you can throw at them. We shall see about that. Other alien commanders joined the communication link. Captain Delmar of the Zephyrian survivors sounded angry and frustrated. Human Admiral, we appreciate your courage, but this is suicide. The Vorthak have weapons you cannot imagine. Their plasma cannons can melt through any armor. Their shields can deflect any energy beam. Our ships are not energy-based, Admiral Lee Hyun replied. Metal bullets will not penetrate Vorthak shields, insisted General Torvin of the Rock People Fleet. We tried kinetic weapons at the beginning of the war. They were useless. Commander Kim Jun leaned forward and spoke quietly to Admiral Lee Hyun. Sir, they do not understand the difference between their kinetic weapons and ours. They think all projectile weapons are the same. The alien commanders had used simple missiles and metal slugs fired from chemical cannons. They had no concept of magnetic acceleration or relativistic velocities. To them, a bullet was a bullet, regardless of how fast it moved. Captain Lim Hay reported in from her stealth destroyer, the Ghost Blade. Admiral, I am in position to observe the enemy command ship. It is massive, at least 3 times larger than our biggest vessel. It appears to be coordinating all 7 battle groups. Can you identify the commander? Negative, sir. But based on the ship's markings, this appears to be a Vorthak warlord vessel, probably their regional fleet commander. Admiral Lee Hyun studied the tactical display. The enemy was spread out across the entire system, confident in their superiority. They were not expecting a real fight. Their formations were designed for hunting scattered survivors, not facing a coordinated attack. Major Han Sol, are your Marines ready for boarding operations? He asked. Yes, sir, though I suspect there will not be much left to board when the guns finish talking. Suddenly, the enemy sensors detected the human fleet. Alert signals began, broadcasting across all Vorthak frequencies. The alien ship started moving, forming up into attack formations. A new voice came over the communication channels. It was harsh and mechanical, speaking through a universal translator. Unknown vessels, this is Warlord Vactor of the Vorthak Empire. You have entered a restricted military zone. Identify yourselves immediately. Admiral Lee Hyun smiled coldly. This is Admiral Lee Hyun of the Human Federation. I order you to surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Silence filled the communication channel for several seconds. Then Warlord Vactor began laughing. It was a terrible sound, like metal grinding against stone. Humans? The primitive ape creatures from the Outer Rim? You dare challenge the might of the Vorthak Empire with your pathetic metal toys? I am giving you one chance to surrender, Admiral Lee Hyun repeated calmly. Surrender? Warlord Vactor's voice became angry. We are the conquerors of 1,000 worlds. We have destroyed civilizations that existed before your species learned to make fire. You will be excellent specimens for our research laboratories. The Vorthak fleet began moving toward the humans. Their ships glowed brighter as weapon systems came online. Plasma cannons extended from hidden ports. Energy shields shimmered to life around each vessel. Admiral Kang Soo's voice came over the emergency channel. Human Admiral, you must retreat. Immediately. They are activating their plasma grid formation. No ship has ever survived that attack pattern. We are not retreating, Admiral Lee Hyun replied. Then you are all going to die, Admiral Kang Soo said sadly. I am sorry we could not help you. Your sacrifice will be remembered. Captain Park Mina looked at the incoming enemy formation and smiled grimly. Sir, they are moving into perfect targeting positions. Their hunting formation spreads them out evenly across our firing solution. They are making it easy for us, agreed Dr. Shin Yuri. Every railgun will have multiple targets to choose from. Admiral Lee Hyun stood up from his command chair and walked to the forward viewing window. The Vorthak fleet was approaching rapidly, their ships leaving blue energy trails across the darkness of space. They moved with confidence and arrogance, certain of their victory. Warlord Vaktor, Admiral Lee Hyun said over the open channel. You have exactly 30 seconds to order your fleet to surrender. If you do not, I will destroy every ship under your command. Warlord Vaktor's laughter echoed across all frequencies. 30 seconds? You amuse me, primitive creature. I will give you 30 seconds to beg for mercy before I turn your metal coffins into floating scrap. 25 seconds, Admiral Lee Hyun said calmly. The Vorthak ships increased speed, their plasma weapons beginning to glow with deadly energy. They were moving into firing range, confident that their shields would protect them from anything. The humans could produce. 20 seconds, Admiral Kang Su was broadcasting desperate warnings to the human fleet. Please, retreat while you still can. Their plasma grid will destroy you in seconds. No one can fight the Vorthak and win. 15 seconds. Captain Park Mina stood at the weapons control station, her hand hovering over the firing control. All ships report ready to fire, sir. Targeting solutions locked and confirmed. 10 seconds. Dr. Shin Yuri watched her instruments as the magnetic coils reached full charge. The hammer of Sol weapons were ready to deliver justice to the Vorthak Empire. 5 seconds. Warlord Vaktor's voice came over the channel one last time. Your time is up, humans. Prepare to join the billions who have fallen before the might of the Vorthak Empire. Admiral Lee Hyun looked out at the enemy fleet and spoke quietly. Today, your reign of terror ends. He turned to Captain Park Mina and gave the order that would change galactic history forever. Fire. The human fleet unleashed hell. 50 ships fired their railguns at exactly the same moment. The magnetic coils released their stored energy in a thunderous pulse that could be felt through the metal hulls. Thousands of tungsten projectiles shot into space at 15% of light speed, invisible to the naked eye, but tracked perfectly by human computers. Admiral Lee Hyun watched the tactical display as tiny dots representing his projectiles crossed the vast distance to the enemy fleet. The Vorthak ships continued their advance, completely unaware that death was racing toward them faster than their sensors could detect. Time to impact 3 seconds, announced Captain Park Mina. Warlord Vaktor was still broadcasting his threats over the communication channel. Your primitive weapons cannot penetrate our shields, humans. Prepare to be destroyed by superior Vorthak technology. 2 seconds to impact. The Vorthak formation was perfect for the human attack. Their ships were spread out in hunting formation, each vessel isolated and unable to provide support to the others. They had arranged themselves like targets in a shooting gallery. 1 second to impact. Admiral Lee Hyun held his breath. 3 years of planning and preparation came down to this moment. Everything depended on whether human weapons could do what the galaxy said was impossible. Impact. The first volley of projectiles hit the Vorthak fleet like the hammer of an angry god. The tungsten rounds passed through the alien energy shields, as if they did not exist. The shields had been designed to deflect charged particles and electromagnetic radiation. Solid matter moving at relativistic speeds was something they had never been built to handle. Warlord Vaktor's massive command ship simply disappeared. One moment it was there, 3 kilometers of gleaming alien metal bristling with weapons. The next moment, there was nothing but an expanding cloud of vaporized debris. The projectiles had punched through the hull so fast that the ship had exploded from the inside out. Across the Vorthak formation, the same scene repeated itself dozens of times. Enemy vessels that had seemed invincible moments before were torn apart like paper dolls. The kinetic energy of the projectiles was so enormous that most ships did not just break apart, they disintegrated completely. Direct hits on 47. Enemy vessels, reported the targeting officer. All targets destroyed. Captain Park Mina checked her sensors in disbelief. Sir, an entire battle group just ceased to exist. 7 ships turned into atomic vapor in less than 2 seconds. The surviving Vorthak ships had finally detected the incoming projectiles, but it was far too late. Their commanders screamed orders over their communication channels, but there was nothing they could do. The human weapons moved too fast to dodge and hit too hard to survive. Second volley, fire, Admiral Lee Hyun commanded. Another wave of projectiles shot across space. This time, some of the Vorthak ships tried to take evasive action. Their plasma drives flared as they attempted to change course and avoid the incoming death. It did not matter. The human targeting computers had predicted their movements perfectly. The projectiles adjusted their paths slightly and continued toward their targets with mechanical precision. Dr. Shin Yuri watched her weapons perform exactly as designed. The magnetic guidance systems are working perfectly, sir. Even moving targets cannot escape. More Vorthak ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The alien commanders were broadcasting desperate signals to each other, trying to understand what was happening. Their language sounded panicked and confused. Commander Kim Jun was monitoring the enemy communications. Sir, they do not understand what is hitting them. They keep saying their sensors show empty space, but their ships are being destroyed by invisible weapons. Of course, said Captain Park Mina, their sensors are designed to detect energy signatures. Our projectiles have no electromagnetic signature to track. Admiral Kang Su's voice came over the emergency channel from the hiding alien survivors. His tone had changed completely from despair to amazement. Human Admiral, what weapons are you using? The Vorthak shields are not even slowing down your attacks. Simple kinetic projectiles, Admiral, Lee Hyun replied calmly. We throw rocks very, very hard. Impossible. Kinetic weapons cannot penetrate modern shields. Your kinetic weapons cannot, ours can, Captain Yoon Tae reported in from his stealth frigate. Admiral, I am tracking several enemy ships attempting to escape the system. Should I pursue? Negative. Let them run. We want survivors to report what happened here. The third volley from the human fleet eliminated the remaining ships in the nearest Vorthak battle group. What had been a proud formation of alien warships was now nothing but glowing wreckage scattered across thousands of kilometers of space. Warlord Vaktor's second-in-command had taken control of the fleet after the command ship was destroyed. His voice came over the communication channel, no longer arrogant but filled with terror. Unknown human weapons! How are you penetrating our shields? This is impossible! Nothing is impossible, Admiral Lee Hyun replied. You simply never encountered weapons like ours before. What do you want? We can negotiate. I already told you. What I want. Unconditional surrender. The remaining Vorthak ships were trying to form defensive formations, but it was useless. Their tactics were based on energy warfare between shielded vessels. They had no experience fighting an enemy that could ignore their defenses completely. Captain Lim Hai contacted the fleet from her position near the enemy formation. Admiral, the surviving Vorthak ships are trying to coordinate a plasma grid. Attack! They think they can overwhelm our defenses with concentrated fire. Let them try, Admiral Lee Hyun said grimly. The Vorthak ships fired their plasma cannons all at once. Hundreds of blue energy beams shot toward the human fleet, designed to melt through any armor. The alien commanders expected to see the primitive human ships vaporize under the assault. Instead, the plasma beams splashed harmlessly against the human armor. The ships had been designed to fight in environments where energy weapons were common. Their hulls were layered with materials that could absorb and disperse plasma fire. No damage to any human vessel, reported the damage control officer. Their weapons cannot penetrate our armor. Dr. Shin Yuri smiled as she watched the enemy weapons fail. Sir, their plasma beams are designed for ships with thin hulls and energy shields. Against solid armor, they are almost useless. Fourth volley. Fire! More Vorthak ships died in brilliant explosions. The alien formation was falling apart as commanders panicked and tried to save their own vessels. Some ships attempted to ram the human vessels in desperation. Others tried to flee at maximum speed. None of it worked. The human projectiles found their targets with ruthless efficiency. Each tungsten round carried enough kinetic energy to destroy a city block. Against the relatively fragile alien hulls, they were absolutely devastating. Major Han Sol was watching the battle from the marine deck. Sir, at this rate there will be nothing left for my teams to board. The objective is complete destruction of enemy forces, Admiral Lee Hyun replied. Prisoners are optional. The fifth volley eliminated another entire battle group. The Vorthak fleet that had numbered 300 ships at the beginning of the battle was now reduced to less than 50 vessels. Most of those were damaged and trying to escape. Admiral Kang Su's voice came over the channel again. "Human Admiral, this is incredible. You are destroying the Vorthak faster than they destroyed us. How is this possible?" "We had time to study their weaknesses," Admiral Lee Hyun explained. "While you fought them with similar technology, we developed something completely different. But kinetic weapons are primitive. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways." The sixth volley caught a group of fleeing Vorthak ships as they tried to reach the edge of the system. The projectiles overtook them easily and tore them apart one by one. Their plasma drives provided no protection against solid matter moving at such incredible speeds. Commander Kim Jun monitored the enemy communications as the remaining Vorthak commanders realized the hopelessness of their situation. "Sir, they are broadcasting surrender requests on all frequencies." "Too late for that," Admiral Lee Hyun said coldly. They had their chance. The seventh volley eliminated the last organized resistance. Only a handful of individual Vorthak ships remained, scattered and running for their lives. Most of them were damaged and unlikely to escape the system. Captain Park Mina checked her tactical display and shook her head in amazement. "Sir, the entire enemy fleet has been destroyed in 17 seconds. 300 ships, gone." "Any human casualties?" Admiral Lee Hyun asked. "None, sir. We did not even take minor damage." Dr. Shin Yuri was already preparing for additional volleys, but there were no targets left worth shooting. The mighty Vorthak fleet that had terrorized the galaxy for years had been completely annihilated in less than 20 seconds. The communication channels fell silent, except for the desperate calls of a few surviving alien ships begging for mercy. The space around Kepler was filled with glowing debris and expanding clouds of vaporized metal. Admiral Lee Hyun looked out at the destruction and felt a grim satisfaction. Justice had been served. The Vorthak Empire had finally met an enemy they could not defeat. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "Mission accomplished." Silence filled the Kepler system like a heavy blanket. Where 300 Vorthak warships had been hunting for survivors just minutes before, now there was only debris. Glowing fragments of alien metal drifted slowly through space. The last remains of an empire that had thought itself invincible. Admiral Lee Hyun stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched the aftermath of the battle. His tactical display showed nothing but green dots representing human ships and the few remaining Council survivors. Every red dot marking an enemy vessel had disappeared. "Damage report," he ordered calmly. Captain Park Mina checked her instruments. "All 50 ships report 0 damage, sir. The enemy weapons could not penetrate our armor. We did not lose a single crew member." "Ammunition status?" "We fired 7 volleys using approximately 4,000 projectiles. We still have 26,000 rounds remaining across the fleet." Admiral Lee Hyun nodded. They had enough ammunition to destroy every Vorthak ship in the galaxy several times over. The battle at Kepler was just the beginning. The communication channels suddenly came alive with voices from the alien survivors. Admiral Kang Su was the first to speak, his voice filled with disbelief. "Human Admiral, is it over? Are they all gone?" "The immediate threat has been eliminated," Admiral Lee Hyun replied. "You are safe." Captain Delmar of the Zephyrian survivors sounded like he was in shock. 17 seconds. You destroyed their entire fleet in 17 seconds. How is that possible?" "Superior technology and proper tactics," Captain Park Mina answered before Admiral Lee Hyun could respond. "But you are using primitive kinetic weapons," protested General Torvin. "Metal projectiles cannot be more advanced than plasma cannons and particle beams." Dr. Shin Yuri joined the conversation from her weapon station. "The projectiles themselves are simple. It is the delivery system that makes them effective. Our magnetic acceleration technology allows us to achieve velocities that your species never imagined possible." Commander Kim Jun was monitoring communications across the entire galaxy. His expression was one of amazement as reports flooded in from intelligence networks thousands of light years away. "Sir, word of the battle is spreading faster than we expected. Every major government in the galaxy is requesting information about what happened here." "What are they saying?" Admiral Lee Hyun asked. Most of them do not believe the initial reports. They think it is impossible for 50 ships to destroy 300 Vorthak vessels. Some are calling it propaganda. Captain Yun Tae contacted the fleet from his stealth frigate. Admiral, I am tracking several Vorthak escape pods broadcasting surrender signals. Should we pick them up for interrogation? Affirmative. Major Han Sol, deploy your Marines for prisoner collection. Major Han Sol and his teams launched from the human ships in armored shuttles. The Vorthak survivors they found were in a state of complete shock. Most could barely speak coherently when questioned about what they had witnessed. One captured Vorthak officer kept repeating the same phrase over and over. The weapons came from empty space. Nothing was there. But our ships died anyway. The alien could not understand that the human projectiles moved faster than his sensors could detect. To Vorthak technology, the tungsten rounds were essentially invisible until the moment of impact. Admiral Kang Su's ship approached the human fleet slowly, broadcasting friendship signals. When he came aboard the Indomitable for a face-to-face meeting, his expression was one of complete awe. Admiral Lee Hyun, I have fought the Vorthak for 3 years. I have seen them destroy fleets 10 times larger than yours. How did you make it look so easy? Admiral Lee Hyun gestured to the weapons displays showing the railgun systems. We spent decades studying Vorthak tactics and technology. We knew their strengths and weaknesses before we ever engaged them in battle. But kinetic weapons are considered obsolete. By whom? Captain Park Mina asked. Just because your species abandoned projectile weapons does not mean they are inferior. You simply stopped developing them. Dr. Shin Yuri brought up holographic displays showing the technical specifications of the Hammer of Sol system. Admiral Kang Su studied the numbers with growing amazement. 15% of light speed? He said quietly. That is impossible. No projectile can move that fast. Human engineering made it possible, Dr. Shin Yuri replied proudly. While other species focused on energy weapons, we perfected magnetic acceleration beyond anything the galaxy had seen. Commander Kim Jun approached with fresh intelligence reports. Sir, we are receiving communications from Vorthak High Command. They are demanding to know what happened to their fleet at Kepler. What are you telling them? Nothing, sir. But other sources are spreading the word. The entire galaxy will know about this battle within hours. Admiral Lee Hyun walked to the viewing window and looked out at the debris field that had once been a mighty alien fleet. Good. Let them know that humanity has arrived. Captain Lim Hai reported in from the edge of the system. Admiral, I am detecting multiple hyperspace signatures approaching. Large ships, but they are broadcasting galactic. Council identification codes. Reinforcements, Admiral Kang Su explained. The Council must have received word of the battle. They are probably coming to rescue survivors. When the Council ships arrived, their commanders were stunned by what they found. Instead of a battlefield full of human wreckage, they saw Vorthak, debris scattered across the system and human ships floating undamaged among the ruins. Council Admiral Rextan contacted the human fleet with obvious confusion in his voice. Human Admiral, we received reports that you were engaging 300 Vorthak ships with only 50 vessels. We came to evacuate your survivors. There are no human survivors to evacuate, Admiral Lee Hyun replied calmly. I understand. How many ships did you lose? None. A long pause filled the communication channel. None? That cannot be correct. All 50 human ships are operational and undamaged. The Vorthak fleet has been completely destroyed. Admiral Rextan's voice became strained. You destroyed 300 Vorthak ships without losing a single vessel? Correct. Another pause, even longer than the first. How? Superior firepower. The newly arrived Council ships began scanning the debris field with their sensors. The evidence was undeniable. Hundreds of Vorthak vessels had been torn apart by weapons that left very specific patterns of destruction. These damage patterns are unlike anything we have seen, reported a Council scientist over the open channel. The ships were not melted by plasma fire or disintegrated by particle beams. They were physically torn apart by kinetic impact. Kinetic weapons did this? Admiral Rexton sounded incredulous. Impossible! Dr. Shin Yuri had heard enough skepticism for one day. Would you like a demonstration? She asked sweetly. What kind of demonstration? She pointed to a large piece of Vorthak wreckage floating nearby. Watch that debris fragment. The Indomitable's smallest railgun fired a single projectile at minimal power. The tungsten round hit the alien wreckage and punched completely through it, leaving a perfectly round hole. That was fired at less than 1% of our maximum velocity, Dr. Shin Yuri explained. A full-power shot would have vaporized the entire fragment. The Council commanders fell silent as they realized the implications. Humanity possessed weapons that could penetrate any defense in the galaxy. No shield technology could stop solid matter moving at such incredible speeds. Commander Kim Jun received an urgent message from Human Intelligence Networks. Sir, Vorthak High Command is broadcasting an emergency session. They are trying to understand how an entire battle fleet was destroyed. What conclusions are they reaching? They think we used some kind of superweapon. They have no concept of advanced kinetic technology. To them, projectile weapons are primitive by definition. Admiral Lee Hyun smiled grimly. Their ignorance is our advantage. Captain Park Mina studied the tactical implications of their victory. Sir, word of this battle will spread to every Vorthak fleet in the galaxy. They will know that their shields are useless against our weapons. Will they adapt their tactics? How can they? Their entire military doctrine is based on energy warfare. They would have to rebuild their entire fleet from scratch to defend against kinetic weapons. Dr. Shin Yuri was already thinking ahead to the next battle. Sir, based on intelligence reports, the Vorthak have 9 other major fleets scattered across their territory. If we move quickly, we can destroy them before they have time to develop countermeasures. Admiral Lee Hyun considered the strategic situation. The Vorthak Empire controlled thousands of star systems and had oppressed dozens of species for generations. Today's battle had proven that human weapons could destroy them with ease. Admiral Kang Su, he said to the alien commander. How many innocent worlds are still under Vorthak occupation? Hundreds, Admiral. Entire civilizations are enslaved or worse. Admiral Lee Hyun turned to his communication officer. Send a message to Earth. Tell them the first battle was a complete success. Request permission to continue operations against all Vorthak forces. Yes, sir. As the human fleet prepared to leave the Kepler system, Admiral Lee Hyun reflected on what they had accomplished. In less than 20 seconds, they had shattered the myth of Vorthak invincibility. The galaxy would never be the same. Captain Park Mina set course for the next Vorthak fleet concentration. It is time to Finai. 3 days after the Battle of Kepler Nexus, the entire galaxy had changed forever. Admiral Lee Hyun stood in the communications center of the Indomitable, watching as history unfolded on screens around him. Every major news network in the galaxy was broadcasting the same incredible story. The mighty Vorthak Empire had surrendered without firing another shot. Emperor Thakvor himself appeared on the main screen, his forearms spread wide in the traditional Vorthak gesture of submission. His scaled face, which had once inspired terror across 1,000 worlds, now showed only defeat and fear. To the Human Federation, Emperor Thakvor said in his translated voice, the Vorthak Empire offers unconditional surrender. We withdraw all claims to occupied territories and submit to whatever terms you deem appropriate. Captain Park Mina shook her head in amazement. 300 years of Vorthak expansion ended by one 17-second battle. Fear is a powerful motivator, observed Commander Kim Jun. Our intelligence reports show that Vorthak commanders across the galaxy refused to engage human forces after learning what happened at Kepler. They simply retreated to their home systems and waited for orders. The surrender had not been the only shock. Within hours of the battle, every major species in the galaxy had sent diplomatic missions to contact the Human Federation. The same aliens who had dismissed humanity as primitive were now desperate to become allies. Fleet Admiral Nam Ki arrived from Earth aboard the massive command ship Prometheus. He was even larger than the Indomitable, carrying enough firepower to level entire planets. When he met with Admiral Lee Hyun, his expression was one of quiet pride. Outstanding work, Admiral, Fleet Admiral Nam Ki said. The President sends her congratulations. You have exceeded every expectation. Thank you, sir. What are our new orders? The Galactic Council has offered humanity leadership of the new Galactic Defense Force. Every species wants our protection now that they know what we can do. President Oh-Hwa appeared on the communication screen from Earth. Behind her stood the leaders of humanity's military and scientific communities. Her face showed the satisfaction of someone whose long-term planning had finally paid off. Admiral Lee Hyun, President Oh-Hwa said, "You and your fleet have accomplished something remarkable. Not only did you save the galaxy from the Vorthak threat, but you established humanity as the dominant military power. The question now is what we do with that power." General Park Dong, commander of the Human Marine Corps, joined the conversation. "Madam President, our intelligence indicates that 17 different species have formally requested human military protection. They are offering tribute, territory, and technology in exchange for defense guarantees." "And the Vorthak Empire?" "Completely collapsed," reported Commander Kim Jun. "Without their military superiority, their subject worlds are declaring independence. The empire that took 3 centuries to build fell apart in 3 days." Dr. Shin, Yuri was examining data from the surrendered Vorthak ships. "Madam President, their technology is actually quite sophisticated in some areas. Their plasma manipulation and shield generators could be useful for defensive applications. But their weapons are useless against kinetic projectiles," Captain Park Mina added. "They optimized for a type of warfare that we simply ignore." President Oh-Hwa considered the strategic implications. "What about other potential threats? Are there any species that might challenge us?" Fleet Admiral Nam Ki pulled up a galactic map showing military capabilities. "Based on our analysis, no existing power can match our kinetic weapons technology. Most species abandoned projectile weapons millions of years ago. They would need decades to develop effective countermeasures." Admiral Lee Hyun walked to the viewing window and looked out at the massive human fleet that now filled the Kepler system. More ships arrived every day as Earth committed additional forces to maintain galactic security. "Sir," he said to Fleet Admiral Nam Ki, "what are our rules of engagement for peacekeeping operations?" "Minimal force unless threatened directly. Our goal is protection, not conquest. The galaxy has had enough of empires." Ambassador Choi Hana arrived from the Galactic Council with news of the formal negotiations. Her usually calm expression showed barely contained excitement. "The Council has agreed to all our terms," she announced. "Humanity receives permanent leadership of galactic defense, territorial rights to 50 star systems, and unlimited access to galactic trade networks. In exchange, we protect member worlds from any military threats." "What about non-member worlds?" asked Admiral Lee Hyun. "They can request protection, but they must agree to certain standards of civilization. No slavery, no genocide, no aggressive wars against neighbors." Captain Yoon Tae contacted the fleet from his patrol sector. "Admiral, I am tracking several former Vorthak worlds that are requesting human intervention. Their new governments want help maintaining order during the transition." "Deploy peacekeeping forces," Fleet Admiral Nam Ki ordered. "Standard rules of engagement. Protect civilians, maintain stability, but do not interfere with local governance unless absolutely necessary." Dr. Shin Yuri approached with technical reports from the Weapons Testing Division. "Admirals, we have been analyzing the performance of our systems against Vorthak technology. The results are even better than expected." She activated a holographic display showing detailed battle analysis. "Our projectiles achieved a 98% hit rate at combat velocities. Enemy shields provided 0 protection. Their armor was completely inadequate against kinetic weapons. Most importantly," she continued, "we now have confirmed data on every major alien technology in the galaxy. None of it poses a significant threat to human ships." Major Han Sol reported from the prisoner interrogation facilities. "Sirs, the captured Vorthak officers have provided extensive intelligence on their former empire's structure. We now have complete maps of their territory and lists of all occupied worlds." "How many worlds are we talking about?" President Oh-Hwa asked. "Over 3,000 star systems, Madam President. Most of them were forced into the empire against their will. They are celebrating their liberation." Captain Lim Hai approached with communications from the liberated worlds. "Ma'am, we are receiving thousands of messages of gratitude from species that were enslaved by the Vorthak. Many are offering to join the new Galactic Alliance." Admiral Lee Hyun studied the reports and felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The mission had been about more than military victory. It was about justice for the billions who had suffered under Vorthak rule. What about the Vorthak homeworld? He asked. Under human protection, Fleet Admiral Nam Ki replied. They surrendered completely. But some of their people are genuinely trying to reform their society. We are monitoring the situation carefully. Commander Kim Jun received an urgent communication from Human Intelligence Services. Sirs, we are detecting some concerning developments in the outer galaxy. Several unknown species have been observing recent events. They may represent future challenges. Military threats? Admiral Lee Hyun asked. Unknown, sir. But they have technology signatures we do not recognize. They may be more advanced than anything we have encountered so far. President Oh Hwa looked thoughtful. Then we continue to develop our capabilities. The galaxy is a big place, and we have only just begun to explore it. Fleet Admiral Nam Ki nodded in agreement. The Defense Force will maintain a strong presence in all major sectors. Any species that threatens galactic peace will face the same fate as the Vorthak Empire. Dr. Shin Yuri was already working on the next generation of human weapons. Madam President, we are developing even more advanced kinetic systems. If we encounter species with better defenses, we will be ready. Admiral Lee Hyun looked around at the assembled leaders and felt proud of what humanity had accomplished. 6 months ago, they had been an unknown species on the galactic frontier. Today, they were the protectors of civilization itself. There is one more thing, Ambassador Choi Hana said. The Council wants to establish a permanent memorial at Kepler Nexus, a monument to the battle that ended the Vorthak threat and began the age of galactic peace. What will it say? Admiral Lee Hyun asked. Here, humanity proved that sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Here, the galaxy learned that throwing rocks very, very hard can stop any enemy. Everyone smiled at that. It was a fitting tribute to the species that had saved the galaxy by perfecting the ancient art of warfare. President Oh Hwa gave her final orders. Admiral Lee Hyun, your fleet will remain on patrol duty. Make sure every species knows that humanity stands ready to defend the innocent. Admiral Nam Ki, expand the defense force as quickly as possible. We need ships in every sector. And remember, she added, we are protectors, not conquerors. The galaxy has had enough of empires. Let us show them what true guardians look like. The communication ended, and Admiral Lee Hyun returned to his duties. Outside the viewing window, human ships patrolled the space lanes that had once been hunting grounds for alien predators. The age of fear was over. The age of human protection had begun. In the distance, construction crews were already building the first human defense station at Kepler Nexus. Soon, similar stations would guard every major system in the galaxy. The monument to human victory would remind future generations that freedom had been won with tungsten projectiles and magnetic accelerate.